Oh, hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 275, I am very lucky, privileged to have Victor Varnado on the podcast. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. It's a work in progress, but he is.
You did great.
Oh, thank you very much. Most
You're
kind.
welcome.
Hey, he is a TV actor, film actor, producer, showrunner, and yes, comedian, and so much more. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great today. There's been so much happening this week. I'm glad that we scheduled this so that we can sit down and have a conversation because I've been running around so much. So I was actually looking forward to this.
Well, there you go. There you go. Now, you know what, Victor? Like, I I looked when I in my research, I was like, end of days, where are you in the end of days? Now, did you have curly hair at the time, or was that a wig they gave you?
Uh, well, I have curly hair all the time because being black, my hair is very curly.
No, but
But
no. But come on now, on the film, your
no,
hair.
on the film though, it was giant knots, like knots of hair, and that was a wig. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, that
because
was that was a wig.
yeah, when I saw the picture, I was like, oh my god, it just leapt out at me. I was like, oh, brilliant. So no,
They did a really good job actually. They had to match my natural hair to make that wig. And they had never done anything like it before, so they were very excited.
good God. How long were you on that film for?
I was on that film for not crazy long, just like a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not a crazy long time. I was supposed to be on that film for more time initially,
Really?
but then I was only on for a couple of weeks. Yeah, because the original director that hired me gave me a much larger part, but then he got fired. So then my part got cut down.
What did he do?
Well, I can actually tell you. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what he did, but what I heard was that he was refusing to send his dailies in, and dailies are basically every time you shoot, you'll send what you shot that day into the studio so they can, check out your progress.
Okay. So he's either not making a lot of progress or
No, no, he was making progress, but he just refused to send in his dailies because he didn't want to be babysat.
okay. Well, that sounds strange to me because okay, it's it wasn't a cheap film back then.
No, it wasn't a cheap film back then, and it was this director's first big movie too. But he wasn't going to play ball by sending in dailies.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that is a strange course of action to
I
take.
get it. I mean, I respect it though because I mean, if he's definitely a filmmaker. His name is Marcus and Spell. He's made movies since then, plenty of movies.
Mm.
Like he made the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Oh, by the way, I have a band-aid on my nose. So because my cat my cats got into a fight in my bed while I was sleeping, and one of them jumped trying to run away from the other one and scratched my nose. So just so you know what's happening there.
I wasn't going to bring any attention to it, but you know what? Like, yeah, I, I'm loving the story there. I'm just like wondering, like, yeah, this cat sort of fight ring which is going on in your household. Just like, yeah, come on.
Exactly. One of the cats, like, they scared the other cat, and the cat tried to run away and didn't look where they were running and just scratched my nose on their way away from the other cat. And then I sat up and just blood was just streaming down my face.
Oh my lord! But you know what? You look good. I would.
Thanks.
You look good. So don't worry. It's
I'll
all
keep it.
cool. Ah, well, yes, maybe a assortment of various different colors and
Well,
patterns, maybe in the future.
well, anyway, Marcus Nispel, the director, so
Yeah.
and he went on to direct a lot of other things, but I understand that he's like very particular about what he wants. And if you do send dailies to the studio,
Mm.
the studio will give you notes. There's just no way around it. They will. And so they will, unless you're a big powerful director, they will give you a bunch of notes. And so he didn't want to be babysat. He wanted to make the movie he wanted to make. Unfortunately, they did not agree with him, and they replaced him with Peter Hyams.
Yeah, but that is I would say the sort of movie industry as a whole. It is a bit of like back then, it seemed to be a little bit more stable back then. Now it seems to be a lot crazier. Are you like with regards to like how things were when you first sort of started out in films
Yeah.
compared to today? Like, because right now, like they could like I think we'll look back at this time as a like how can I put it? The most sort of productive amount of content being produced like no other time before because of the advent of streaming, because of films, like network television, like trying to stay in the fight, cable television staying in the fight, more, and as I said, streaming, more streaming channels coming up. What has how has it changed from when you sort of like, you know what I mean, first started cutting your teeth to this present day? You like you've seen it on all sides of the fence at this present time, being a showrunner, being a producer.
Yeah, I mean, it has changed quite a bit. I mean, I think that one of the main things that's changed is that there's so many more people watching content. I mean,
Mm.
and we have, I think, the pandemic to thank for that, because when everybody was trapped inside, what else could they do? And so and so all of that content, like all of those streaming channels, like really capitalize on that.
Mm.
And now there's so much stuff. Like right now there are shows that I just didn't even know existed. Like there's so many shows out there.
Yeah.
Like you don't even know. Like I have friends who are on television, and I don't even know. I didn't even know they were on TV. Like back in the day, if one of your friends was on TV, you knew exactly where they were and what it was. There were
Mm.
limited channels, but now it's just like it's impossible to know all the shows. People are always talking about shows that I've never heard of.
Yeah. But wouldn't like with all of that, it must make it very hard to sort of like go, okay, this guarantees like my show's security. We get X amount of view. Like it used to be like, yeah, we're hitting 1 million like you know what I mean, viewers.
Uh-huh.
And now it's kind of like what is good for like say a TV show today on a particular network. 1 million, a few 100,000.
I think it varies from network to network and show by show. And there's a whole formula which would probably involve viewership, number of potential viewers, but also then like the budget of the
Mm.
show, and
Yeah.
then whether or not it's getting press. Like for instance, like a streaming service will keep a show around that maybe doesn't have the viewership, but if it's great for press and keeps getting stories written about it, that's also something they consider as well. So there's a lot of things to consider nowadays.
Right. So like this is the thing. You're like you working as a showrunner, say, what would be the thing you would be potentially after? Like what oh sorry. Before I go down that route, what's
Okay.
the difference between a showrunner and a producer of a TV show?
A showrunner is a type of producer, pretty
Uh-huh.
much. So a showrunner, because there's all different kinds of producers. There's line producers, there's production managers, there are supervising producers. There's all kinds of producers. A showrunner is the top,
Mm.
is the top, and sometimes a showrunner will be a producer and or a writer as well, depending on what the show is. If the show is like a narrative show, then usually the showrunner is also a very strong writer as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a showrunner is a type of producer, but the top producer, really.
Ah.
Mhm.
And who have you been a showrunner for?
I've only done showrunning for uh I've done show runnings for my own projects, and for other people, I've been usually a supervising producer.
Mm.
So, like for instance, recently I did a game show for Facebook Watch with it was a in association with Penguin Random House. It was
Uh-huh.
a game. It was a comedy game show, debate show where people debated nerdy things. It was called the Great Fantasy Debate. Like you would debate like whether or not it was better to be part of the empire or the rebellion, so, and then we'd have science fiction authors and comedians debating those kind of topics. And so that show, I was the showrunner for that show.
I see. And may I ask, which one would you be, the Empire or the Rebellion?
I mean, I'd have to say rebellion in this case, because the empire, they are unfortunately too snooty. I'm not a snooty guy. So the empire, they're all pretty snooty.
Look, you know what, guys? You know what? I've looked through your manifesto. Look, education, yes, I agree with. Like, yeah, politics, yes, I agree with. Economic structure, yes, agree. Like, yeah, saving that endangered species, yep. But you're just a little bit too snooty.
Exactly.
Like, look, always having to dress in either white or black with a shade of gray. Come on now, get over.
It's the empire. Like, they don't seem like a great hang,
Well, no chance of accidental fire. Let's just say, shoot that person over there. Like that person over there. It's like,
how about yourself? What would you pick?
Ooh. Now, this is the thing. If this was my youthful self back in the day, I'd have been like, yes, the rebellion, no problem at all. Let's go with it. Now, as an adult, it's a case of it brought economic stability and structure with a slight dash of mass murder. If they drop the mass murder and genocide, that would be part of me, which was it's like yeah.
If they drop the mass murder and genocide, but they're probably not going to do that.
You got.
I mean, yes, they have great hospitals. I get it.
It's like it's like give me a little bit of a breathing apparatus, but it's like lost it. Please, no, it'll have to be the rebellion, even though it would sort of bring everything down in some type of economic chaos. Who knows? But still, yeah. But it's one of those things where, I got to say, that must be quite a fun thing to do, though. You must have enjoyed that immensely.
I did. I very much did. It was one of my favorite times because that was actually that was a little more than 2 years ago. Yeah, more than 2 years ago when I did that, right before the pandemic began. In fact, I shot it, and then before it had a chance to premiere, the pandemic hit.
Oh.
Yeah, so they actually pushed the premiere back later. And it actually didn't get the ratings that it was supposed to get because it didn't get its regular premiere date, because at the time it was going to premiere was maybe a week after they announced everybody has to stay in their houses. And so they should have premiered, because they didn't, I mean, obviously they didn't think ahead. Not everybody thought ahead that, then everything that is online is going to get so much more viewership than it would have gotten previously. But they pushed it instead because they thought it was going to be, the entire nation was going to be depressed, which it was, but they didn't understand that they would be depressed and they're watching TV.
Well, yeah, look, put it this way, right? Look, if Tiger King can go from just okay, nothing, which it should have been just there was this documentary, to this global phenomena. I remember sitting down with my lady, and the trailer came on. I was watching it. So no choice in the
Yeah, I mean, what else did you have to do? Because especially for those first few weeks, nobody had anything to do. Everything was shut down. People hadn't started remote working a lot yet. It was just people thought that they were going to get 2 weeks off.
Well, yeah, put it this way. I remember when I was in the office, I was I said to the guys in the finance team, I shall see you in a couple of weeks' time. Fingers crossed. Yeah, didn't see most of them until a year later. I was let go from my job, brought back on my job, and then I managed to see a few of them come back. But yeah, mad, quite crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Insane.
So with what you were doing, like, did you like what do you prefer to do? Is it acting or is it like, yeah, behind the camera now for you? What is
I have to I like doing it. I like doing all of it. Like I would say I'm a very expressive artist and I do art in many different ways. That's like if you look back at, the things that I've done, easy to it's easy to see. Like I've been a cartoonist, a comedian, made video games, I've done I've written essays, acted, directed. So I will do whatever it takes to get my point across.
the Renaissance man? Let's just
Mm.
say in making. Well, you know what I mean. Like far be it for me to judge crackhead comedy, or is it crack ho? I'm not too sure. Which one of them's got a proper job?
Yeah, that's a funny joke.
uh,
I like that joke.
you want to know something? You said that joke.
I know. I know.
So with like how did you like I know I'm jumping from here to there, but it's like one of those things I'm just trying to get a real gauge for you because like the whole thing is you've like done acting, you've been a like showrunner, producer, and a comedian. Well, like video games. You know what? I'm learning more about you as we speak. I'm liking
Hmm.
that. Yeah. Comedian. What got you into the realm of comedy?
Uh, well, I started comedy as a dare from one of my teachers in high school.
Mm.
One of my teachers in high school dared me to do comedy on stage rather than trying to tell jokes in class all the time.
It's like a like Victor, stop it. Like,
Exactly. And he said, I will give you an A if you go do comedy on stage. And so I did comedy on stage and I did comedy on stage. I did a show and then he gave me an A. And then I never went back to stand-up comedy until I moved to New York like 25 years ago.
wow.
Yeah. And so then that's when I started doing comedy for real and eventually, made my way up the ladder.
Mm. So how many gigs would you say you've done?
Stand-up?
Yes.
Thousands. I don't know. It's
Oh,
a lot.
wow. Because like this is the thing with comedy, it's one of those things where it's it's a it's an art form which gets immediate feedback. You don't have like a sort of like, okay, did they like it? Didn't they like it? You know pretty much right away.
It's
Yeah.
one of my favorite things about comedy. Yeah, it's like one of those things where like unlike writing where you write you
Mm.
don't get immediate feedback and it could be years sometimes before you know how the public feels about it if it's not put up in the right arena. But yeah, with comedy, immediately.
It's like, yeah, yeah, you're laughing. Great job. Yeah. Oh, you hate me. Okay, no worries. So how do you like normally work on your bits when like doing comedy? Because you got to put together like a sort of solid half an hour and or an hour. Takes a
Yeah,
lot of
I'm
work.
a writer. I'm a writer like through and through. So the way I write comedy, I do improvise on stage a lot when I'm figuring things out, but I will just write things down and write a comedy routine down in a very detailed fashion
Mm,
because sometimes it's about for me it's about like getting a specific joke or message across. Like my jokes have messages, and so it's not just a I would say it's not just like a joke for a joke's sake.
yeah.
Let me back up because sometimes I do things just because they're funny. Like I'll say things just because it's stupid, and funny. Like there's like a bit like I talk about dating sometimes, and then I get into dating by telling everybody it's just like a bit that I say where I go uh like I'm a guy, as you can tell by all my penises. Like just like something just stupid, just get into the subject matter. So I do that as well. But usually I'll have a message behind my joke.
So with your last sort of stand-up routine, what was the message for the people, say?
I would say that my message is that nothing is sacred because everything is stupid. Just the whole world is chaos. So that's my message.
No, like I can't see the world being chaos at all. Like there isn't a fuel crisis. No, there isn't World War III, and we're
Yeah.
not like just coming out of a tail end of a pandemic, which, depending who you speak to, it's over and or it's not over. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah, it's just like it's so hard to nail anything down. Like everything is just crazy right now and just getting crazier. The whole world is chaos. So, like in I I think that it's actually really funny because when I look at, for instance, like the presidency in America nowadays, like in the past couple of like the way that politics has become is like it was depicted in movies like RoboCop. Do you remember in like the old RoboCop when all the politics and business and the TV shows were just like insane and you're like that's pretty ridiculous, but
I
that's what we're going through right now.
like, you know what? All I would simply say is, as soon as I hear someone say, "I'll buy that for $1," I will head to like SpaceX, get on a rocket, and like, I'm going to Mars. Leave me be. Just
I don't think it's that far away. Like when
like,
I watch stuff like The Masked Singer, like that, it looks like those shows.
oh, like yeah. Do you remember the film Idiocracy?
Yes,
Uh,
yes, it's
no,
like that too.
yeah, because I don't know why it seems to be sort of just spiraling. It's spiraling out of control. It just seems to be going down a really daft turn, if you get what I mean. You're just like,
Oh,
oh,
absolutely.
why? I don't know, but it is. I kind of look at, okay, if we talk about the last few presidents, like you kind of like, oh, yeah, like I think from Clinton going forward, it's kind of being like, well, if you went like frig, I could go back to no, you know what? We could take this all the way back up to sort of after Kennedy in the
Uh-huh.
United States, where it's just been like kind of like, what is going on? Then it just went really crazy for the time with Clinton. Then it kind of like sort of leveled off. Then it went crazy again with Bush,
Uh-huh.
like Bush Jr. And like it kind of got a little bit better. And then it went after Obama, then it got crazier still. And it's gone into the next trench of crazy now with
Yeah.
you got. It's like,
Yeah. Uh, I know things seem grim.
well, yeah, well, it's like, hey, Joe, do you remember where the codes are? The codes, the nuclear codes, the codes. What code?
It's interesting because Joe Biden is a sidekick, but he's president. He's a great sidekick, but now he's president. But he's better than what we had, which is, and that's depressing.
like, unfortunately, I have to go. It's like, you know what I mean? It is a crazy time where I'm like, going, yeah, a man who's left office, who should not have got into office, and I kind of look at him like, going, yeah, what you got and what you like, what you're left with right now, you're kind of like, oh, ooh, ooh, to say the
Yeah,
least.
it's time for it's I mean, for me it just lets me know that like okay, then I know what is important to me and what I should be doing because what I should be doing is figuring out how to protect myself from the world. Like that's
Mm,
basically the move right now.
yeah, no, I hear you. No, I hear you. Because like this is the thing, like um politics aside, like it's how can I put it? There's been so many shifts around, and especially in the entertainment industry right now,
Yeah.
with like okay, especially with like Warner Brothers, say with the Warner Brothers Discovery deal. where they just axed the Batgirl, like the Batwoman film. No, Batgirl, excuse me.
Batgirl. Yep.
Yeah. $90 million just like that gone. And you're like going, right. The sort of residuals which other people would have been getting. Like, I think they took Big Bird out of Sesame Street for a while, so they didn't have to pay residuals to him. It's just like, that is an indication to me that, yeah, the old sort of studio systems, the big titans are like sort of dying off, and now they're in new titans with like the sort of likes of like, hey, Disney, Fox. Now it looks like they're going to be selling off Warner Brothers to Universal and making a new behemoth. You know, I don't know if you've heard that.
I mean, I don't really mind like what the studios do and the corporations do. I just hope they put intelligent people in charge. Like they've got Kevin Feige over at Marvel Studios.
Yeah.
And not every Marvel movie is perfect by far, obviously, but the franchise as a whole is pretty entertaining because he's doing a good job and he's a creative person. And so they need to put more people like that in charge. I would be so happy.
Yeah, like this is the thing. I think one of the things which you've worked with, I know you've worked with Stan Lee in the past. Yeah, no, hey. But like the whole thing is with the new sort of MCU like stock they're bringing out. Yeah. I think it's a case of this has been a running problem with all sort of comics. It comes to a point where you've got too much going on. You can't really get it focused. And before you know it, it starts getting messy with the sort of continuity and that's like making some sort of structured sense out of it, not unless if you live in that sort of comic world 24/7, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I do get what you mean. The comics are really funny to me. I actually wrote a story for Marvel once, which it was a book that Marvel published, which was a parody of Marvel comics. So they hired comedians to write funny stories about Marvel. And then it was great because I got to address one of my biggest pet peeves, which is there's so many people who are always trying to take over the world, like in comic books. And so I wrote a story where the villains had not scheduled it, so everybody was trying to take over the world on the same day. And so like Galactus showed up and Mephisto showed up, and they all were just trying. Or no, sorry, Galactus showed up and Dormammu showed up, and Thanos was there too, and they're all just trying to take over the world at the same time. And so it was a lead story in that book. It's called Shame Itself. It was called Shame Itself because it was during the year where they're doing Fear Itself as a big crossover event for Marvel. Yeah. So if you look up a book called Shame Itself in Marvel, you'll find it, and it's the first story there. But yeah, that's the thing in comics is like there is so much going on and there's so many heroes, and it seems stupid to me, one, that people don't cross over when villains are trying to take over the world, but two, in different comic books, there's always like the whole world or universe is in danger in different comic books, but then they never call the other heroes in those comic books. They never press the button and was like, hey, everybody, come here right now, because the universe is about to end. They just handle it themselves.
Yeah.
Which would be stupid.
Hey, yeah, it does make me laugh. And like this is the thing. Like I think DC, when they did the Suicide Squad, the first one, and it's like going right, and you had the Enchantress going off on one, and you're like going. So let me get this straight. You've got a lady with a baseball bat, a guy who can shoot quite accurately, special forces guy, a guy who turns into like a fire god, pretty impressive. And a guy who looks like a crocodile. Yeah. And you want to save the world with these guys. Call the guy with the big S on his chest. And yeah. Call the guy who lives in Atlantis. Or the woman with the big shield. It's like, what? Yes. Superman, Wonder Woman, like Aquaman, any of these guys who are going to be
Yeah,
vastly more qualified.
without a doubt. There, I mean, Superman should be on call all the time. He should just, I mean, he can fly at light speed, so he should just be on call
It's like,
all the time.
yeah, like Superman, how you doing? I'm tired. Why? Everything. I'm just everywhere doing everything on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, but on top of that, there are people that are near Superman. I mean, we could go on about comic books. I mean, of course, there's going to be continuity issues and problems in comic books. I mean, how could there not be? We can complain until we're blue in the face. I'm sure.
Well, indeed. Like I'm curious when if Marvel will ever bring in like the blue Marvel like yes, top tier, next level power, a house, superhero.
Yeah, that'd be great. The Blue Marvel icon,
Mm.
all the people that came over from was it Milestone Comic? What was the name of the comic company that
Oh,
that Icon and
Icon, Static
Static
Shock,
Shock?
Rockets. Oh God, I
Was
think
it Milestone? No, I think
it might be Milestone.
it
I can't
might
remember,
be.
but yes, like that's one of the things which uh I would like to see a little bit like a case of not just having sort of diversity as like yes, this is like yes, Black Batman, Black Captain America, or like you know what I mean. This is Chinese like Superwoman or Chinese Wonder Woman or Brazil. Don't want any of that. Give me a new character with like yeah, who's been developed, grown, where they've actually put some time, effort to like give them a real good storyline
Uh-huh.
and like put it forward that way. Because like let's say Invincible, like, and I was only exposed to Invincible down because of the Amazon like TV show.
Oh yeah, I have every issue of that actually.
Yeah, like look, watching the TV show of that, it was like, yeah, I know they've made a hell of a lot of changes compared to the comic, but it was a case of it was refreshing to see, and you know what I mean. It was, to my like point of view, a new character, but not sort of just like okay, we've just color changed like this character in a existing sort of franchise, if you get what I mean.
Invincible is great. Invincible is one of those books like what they've been doing in the comics for a long time is like because in comic books people are so used to superheroes, people who read comic books, that
Mm.
they've been able to explore different things about the superhero genre. They can satirize it in comic books, and that's just starting to become part of uh live action animation and film. Like that's something new where they can satirize the superhero genre or give you a take. Like that's what The Boys is.
Mm.
It's a different take and a satire. And the same thing. That's exactly what Invincible is. It's kind of like a what if. Like what if your dad was Superman but he was evil? You know. So like I love all those shows.
Mm. Yeah, my favorite character from Invincible. Can you guess who it is?
Your favorite character from Invincible? Let me. Is it Omni Man?
Oh no, no, no. No, no. It's the one, the only Battle Beast. It is like, yeah. I,
Battle Beast is great. If and his story in the comic book is also great. Battle Beast is great. He
yeah.
comes back. I'm sure he's going to come back in the series again and again.
Oh yeah. You know what? Like I was expecting it this year, but like, yeah, I'm not too sure what's gone on there. The guy who does The Walking Dead, who's done Invincible, like he always seems to have something. Whenever he does, there's a slight bit of dodginess to it. It seems it's like there's always some type of little legal wrangle which sort of delays things. It happened to The Walking Dead, and I think it's happened on Invincible as well.
What happened with Invincible? The what legal wrangle was there?
Now, basically, I think it was a case of people who helped him do the comic books and like everything like this. He like I think verbally agreed that they would get a cut in on any sort of future film or TV though. But
And then he didn't want to do it.
Yeah, and that's kind of why it hasn't appeared this year.
Also, that might not be him. It might actually be. I've learned this since I've been in entertainment a lot, which is sometimes all the stories you hear where like, Robert Kirkman does this, it could be his representation. See, and the unfortunate thing is like if he's surrounded by people and one of them gets greedy and does something wrong, his name gets attached to whatever action they do. Because if it's his agent who makes some sort of crazy move, but when it comes out into the news, it's Robert Kirkman, blah blah blah. So when I hear that kind of stuff, I'm always like, I would love to know like what Robert Kirkman personally says, because a lot of what you read is from the result of their team making some sort of move rather than that person making that move themselves.
Like, you know what? I enjoy talking to you because like this is the thing. I get this insight that you have ideas like with regards to what you would personally do. If you had like if someone came up to you and I'm gonna give you a budget of like say $20 million to
Got it.
make a TV show with 16 episodes, and it could be in superheroes on your genre, excuse me. What would like do you have a character in mind which either yourself or you see in any one of the sort of comic book franchises you would like to go, hey, I'd like to see this character be on the screen?
Yeah, I actually have I have more than one idea for superhero series. In fact, I was when I was trying to teach myself how to draw better, I was actually forcing myself to draw a web comic which was based on a superhero series called David and Golilah. And then I also have another thing called Father Shabazz, which is about this guy who's a priest in the future. And basically the story of that one is that uh, a corporation makes a deal with the devil like on the books. So like they sign a deal with the devil and they have a real contract with the devil, a corporation does. And then when they do that, it proves that the devil exists and the God exists beyond any doubt. So the whole world just changes. And so then the whole world just changes. And so then like, you can summon a demon for real because it's possible. And so people start doing things like that. And then becomes uh the church becomes like a police force for the world. And this guy, Father Shabazz, is one of those guys.
Mm, very. I'm intrigued. Like,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, no, well, no, it sounds great. No, sounds very good because, just like I would be like, if that was a like, can you buy this comic or is it a case of you've just?
Unfortunately, you can't buy it yet. It's just one of I have. So basically, this is what I do for a living is interesting right now because what my job is right now is to just come up with ideas, and then when I come up with an idea, I take it to people and I pitch it, and then whoever pays for it, then I form a partnership with them, and then we make that idea happen. And so I I've become this person who, if I have an idea, I just write it down and put it aside because someday when someone's talking to me and they're like, "Hey, do you have an idea for XYZ?" I have hundreds of ideas. Like I have hundreds of ideas like just like written down, ready to go. And then what I do is I had to teach myself not to pursue those ideas too far unless there was something behind them. Otherwise, I become like straight up ADHD about everything. I just do too much, you know?
Yeah. No, uh, no, that because that was sounds like a fantastic idea for me. Um, it must be kind of hard to restrain yourself for like pursuing or building a world on an idea like that.
Sometimes it is. Although I did, someone I someone cured me of doing that because a lot of times I procrastinate by having another idea, and I forgot where I saw it, but someone wrote it down. They're just like, the worst kind of procrastination is when you have a different great idea. Then you're like, oh, I have to work on this idea right away because I have this new idea that's also really good. And then, but then they're just like, just write it down. It'll be there later. Just write, if it's a really good idea, write it down. It'll be there later. Look at it later. If it's still good, you've got it. And so that's what I do. I write it down. I live by keeping notes and organizing things and just keeping them ready to go. And it changed my life writing everything down.
Mm-hmm.
It straight up changed my life and made me way more successful.
Ah,
Like, period.
like, is it a case of you write down everything in a book, or like you just like write it down on a separate sheet of paper and just file that sheet of paper away?
Oh no, I do it electronically because I have to make it easy to access.
Mm-hmm.
So like right now my phone is set up so like if I pick up my phone, if I open my phone and there's a button that I can push which starts note taking. So like I push a button and then there's a space to take notes immediately.
Ah.
So I just write everything. I write everything down, every ridiculous idea that I have, and then I put it in this app called Trello,
Mm-hmm.
and it keeps track of everything. And I have lists of things that I want to do, just like crazy lists too. Like I have a I have I have a I have a list like that I want to. Some of the things that I want to do is like uh I want to draw David Crosby. So like I have that written down on my list.
Okay, like what? Why him? It's like,
Because David Crosby on Twitter is really funny, and people keep drawing pictures of him, and he keeps telling everybody that their pictures are shitty. He'll just like whatever picture you draw of David Crosby, and you say, "Hey, David, what do you think of this picture I drew of you?" He'll be like, "This is crappy."
okay,
And
okay.
so I think it would be funny to just draw a picture and be like, "Hey, what do you think of my picture?" and just have him say my picture is crappy. I think that's hilarious.
You know what? You should send him a pic. You should draw a picture of him every single day for
And
a
that'd be
week.
hilarious. I would totally do that. I wonder how long it would take him to block me.
Like, like,
See, and that's the type of thing though that I would do, and I would get obsessed with doing it because it's funny or fun. Because I'll do things just because they're funny. For instance, if you searched on Google for um for how to draw a penis, I'm the number one video result.
it's like, it's like, okay, okay,
Yeah, straight up. I'm the number one video result when you search for how to draw a penis.
okay. And like, what gave you this need to be like, yes, how to draw a perfect penis? It's like, or how
I
to draw.
didn't, I had no need. I just thought it would be a funny video. And then I made the video and I did not know that it would become the number one video result.
How many
But it
people?
did.
Yeah. How many
It's been
people?
viewed like I think almost 200,000 times.
You know what? That's impressive. I would have thought there would be more people out there like going, you know, how to draw a penis. There you go. It's like, yeah. Do you focus on the shaft or the balls? I don't know. You tell me. It's
Well,
like,
I'll send you the video. You can learn.
it's like, I think, yeah, yeah. I think if I start putting that on my Google search, wow. That's right, Victor. I've opened myself up to so much more. What's going on here? uh some like apart from drawing penises, like yeah, the comic life, and yeah, many other things. Like you have had an interesting life where you have met sort of like yeah some of the great and the good. Like, yeah, I mentioned Stan Lee earlier. You've also met like Charlie Murphy. May he
Hmm.
rest in peace. Yeah, like what was it like? Say working with Charlie Murphy. Was he a good guy? Was he mad? Like, was
Charlie Murphy's
did
a
he
great
tell you?
guy. Charlie Murphy is very, very cool. Like he was very nice, like on set. And what you're referring to is a movie called Twisted Fortune where I directed and Charlie Murphy was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was really cool on set. He was Charlie Murphy is interesting because he's straight up a tough guy. He's like a real tough guy. And he's nice, but he's also just like a tough guy, you know. It's like he's a guy who will hit you in the face. And so so it's like a different sort of vibe around him, you know.
Yeah, just it's like, ah,
Like
oh man.
me, you don't have to think about you don't look at me and think, oh, if I say the wrong thing around Victor, he's going to punch me in the face. Victor will most likely at the most yell at you, probably not punch you in the face. But Charlie Murphy, you get that energy, like you say the wrong thing, he will punch you in the face. And so but he was cool. He's always cool. I mean, and I would like him to have my back in any fight.
Yeah, like put it this way, like the oh man, like the Chappelle show, the Charlie Murphy stories. Uh, you got to, you must know what
Yeah,
I'm talking about. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Those are great.
it's like when like yeah, when you're hearing all the stories, you're like, really, like the Prince story with the pancakes. I'm like going, okay, it's all right. You're going, yeah. How on earth can you live? It's just like if it didn't have people sort of like backing up the story, you're like, going, come on now, you made this all up. But when he's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's like,
No,
yeah,
it's crazy, but like those stories apparently are all 100% true, which is just hilarious. So funny.
oh man, yeah, classic, classic. Like, I have to ask now, with all the things you do, like from like, yeah, for coming up with creative new ideas for shows and like comics I want to see possibly in the future, from video games, from like show running, producing, directing. Sorry, have I forgotten anything? Oh yeah, acting and being a comedian. Yeah,
I sound pretty good.
yeah. So where do you like which one is your kind of main focus at this present time, or are you driving forward with all currently?
Um, my main focus right now is I just recently signed a deal for a new podcast, and I'm doing that podcast right now. That's one of my main things. So I would say my podcast and my podcast and my video game site are the things that I do most right now.
Mm,
And I have a video. Oh, you'll probably love this. So right now I'm giving away $100 a day. And here's how you get it is you go to this video game site called High Score Wins Money, and you play the video game, and whoever gets the high score in the video game wins $100 every day.
like how many people know about this site?
Not a lot yet. We're just starting to do more marketing. So not a lot of people know about it right now. It's like right now we have like around 800 people playing every day.
Mm. Yeah, that's decent odds right there.
Yeah, it's decent odds. People have won multiple times. People, some, because some people are so good at the games that we have. So what we do is like if you win, you can't win for another 7 days. So it gives other people a chance to win.
I see. Well,
Yeah,
I was about to say, wow, that might be a unique way to fund the podcast. Yeah,
definitely.
but yeah.
Do you have like so that's actually something that we can do. We could if you want, we can set you up with we can set you up with uh a group on the site because so right now people can play games on the site. We're about to launch groups so that you can just have a high score you can just have a high score board with just you and your friends, or for instance like your podcast could have its own code so that anybody who listens to your podcast can compete against everybody else who listens to your podcast.
Hmm. That sounds very interesting.
There you
Intriguing.
go.
Ah,
Yeah,
so hmm, we must talk about this. It's
definitely, man. Let's do it.
yeah. So you've got to deal with a podcast, like a new podcast for yourself.
Yes.
And is that a case of for like who will you be doing this podcast for? Is it a set organization or is it just you and your friends doing that?
Well, the podcast is here's how the podcast deal works. Like I basically went to a podcast distribution company
Mm-hmm.
and I said, what are like how do podcasts make the most money? Like what kind of podcast makes the most money? And
Okay.
I know that I wanted to do something that was funny and fun, but I was just like, but what are the earmarks for a podcast that makes the most money? And they're like, well, a daily podcast is great.
Okay.
And a podcast that is funny but also teaches you something. Okay? So like those things, they're like you can do something like that. And then I was watching a TV show, Netflix Explained. Have you ever seen that show?
I have, yes.
Okay, so I was watching an episode of Netflix Explained. And I was like, hey, this kind of seems like a Wikipedia page. So then I went on Wikipedia and then I read the legal jargon on Wikipedia, and I realized that you can use Wikipedia as long as you say it came from Wikipedia. So then I created a podcast where every day I read a Wikipedia page with me and my friends, and we just talk about that page and we comment on it, and that's what we do every day. And there's Wikipedia pages about everything. We read the Wikipedia page for feces. We read the Wikipedia page for Qbert, the video game Qbert, and then we had the person who made Qbert on the show, so we had him read the Wikipedia page with us, and then he responded to the Wikipedia he responded to the Wikipedia page written about Qbert. So it's so much fun. It's just straight up the most fun. I just a great podcast. It's fun. I mean, like if I hadn't made the podcast, I would listen to the podcast because it's fun. It's called Wiki Listen.
My God. And like it's like with this podcast,
Yeah.
Wiki Listen, like great name by the way.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no worries, no worries. Like, how many episodes have you recorded so far for it?
Um, I think we're on episode. I can actually tell you exactly what, but I think it's like 150, maybe something like that. There's been quite a few episodes.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and we only started in December of last year, so we've been killing it because we've been killing it just because like yeah, it's been coming out every day.
Thank God. When you say every day, is that 7 days a week or 5 days a week?
7 days a week. We
Yeah.
started at 5 days a week and then we expanded to 7 days a week.
How long is the show? I must know.
Each episode is like 20 minutes or less.
Yeah. And what's the sort of like this is where my podcast brain kicks in. I can't help it. But yeah, so what's been the sort of uptake, the downloads for that show?
Oh, we're moving pretty fast. So one of the things that I did was so I once I decided what I wanted the show to be, then I went back to this distribution company, which was Starburns Audio, which is the podcast arm of Starburns Industry, who made the first few seasons of Rick and Morty.
Ah,
Okay, so like they're like a connected company. So I went back to them and I was like, hey, if I come back to you with a budget for marketing, will you guys also help, blow up this podcast? And they were like, yeah. So then I went and found a person to invest. So we had a marketing budget. So over the past, just really even a couple of months, like we've gone up to like more than 10,000 downloads a week.
mm-hmm.
And we're gunning to, so we're gunning to get up to about 350,000 downloads a week soon. Because we're just going to market the podcast right.
Yeah. You see, yeah, I think many a person can take a leaf out of the sort of marketing side of podcasts because I think that's where most people fall down or they don't expand.
Yeah, so basically what I figured out was that podcasts, if you can get into that arena of like that many downloads, just your ads
Mm.
are worth $1 million a year. Just the ads. That's not merch. That's not appearances. That's just straight up ads. So, and to get to that point,
Mm.
will cost you around, I would say, $70,000. Okay, but to pay $70,000 to get $1 million a year, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, no, but wait, okay, that no, when you say it like that, you make it sound far too simple and far too easy. But it's
Well,
one of those things.
there's one thing that has to be in the middle of all of it.
Good,
You have to have a really good show.
yeah, no,
You have to have and the show is a good idea and it's a
mm,
good show. So you don't want to put money behind a show that sucks. You want
absolutely,
to put money behind a show that's good.
yeah, no. But when you say 70 grand, 70 grand, okay, in the realms of any show, is not a lot of money if you think about it. You could spend like,
I agree.
yeah, you could spend that on literally doing some festivals and stuff like that. It can like go that quickly. But
Yep.
I go right, boom, 70 grand, market right, great content, and you can have $1 million podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean here's an example. An
Hmm.
example is like so on one platform. So there's a platform called there's all these podcast platforms that where you can listen to your podcast. Like you can listen on Podmatic, or you can listen on Player FM, or you can listen on Apple Podcasts. There's all these different platforms. A
Yeah.
lot of them sell ads, okay? And
Hmm.
so those people that sell ads, like you can basically have your podcast advertised to people on the platform that they listen to. So imagine it being kind of like Netflix. If you log into Netflix, the stuff that's at the top of the screen, like that gets a lot of looks because people see that. So you can buy that space on podcast platforms. So so basically, for instance, like we spent we spent $10,000 advertising on Player FM,
Yeah.
and by spending those $10,000, like we actually got over like we got like almost 8,000 subscribers, and that's great. That's a serious number. So like if it takes and that doesn't mean that you get 8,000 downloads every episode. That just
Oh,
means that you have 8,000 subscribers, but right now we're getting like every day is like 1,000, downloads. So
yeah, no. Like basically like 1,000 downloads every day. Jeez. Like,
yeah. And then once you get to a certain level, like 1,000 downloads every day, you're starting to make money. And then you can take that money and make your podcast grow more.
reinvest the money into the podcast.
Exactly. And then keep going, because I want to get up to 50,000 downloads a day. And so I can do that because if I can go from 100 downloads a day to 1,000 downloads a day, I can go
Mhm.
from 1,000 downloads a day to 10,000 downloads a day. And if I can do that, I can go from 10,000 downloads a day to 50,000 downloads a day.
All right.
Why not?
No, I don't see any reason why not at all.
Exactly.
Have you like? Is this the first time you have done this type of operation, or
Yeah.
is it okay? Uh,
Yeah. I mean, well, I would say not exactly. It's the first time I've done this with a podcast.
mhm.
Okay. But before I made any move, because I'm using other people's money to do this.
Yeah.
And so before I made any move, I made sure I knew what I was doing. I researched a long time on marketing and podcasts and the effects. I'm glad that the internet has so many people with big mouths on it, because you can find all the information that you need like right out there. And so I I I found what I needed to find, and then I also found good people who know what they're talking about marketing podcasts, and then I hired them. So like I found out what I needed to do, so I understood it, but then I also found someone who'd done it already and
Mhm.
hired that person.
Right. So with how long, like 150 down, like, excuse me, 150 episodes since December last year, was it?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably more than that right now. I can't even tell you the full, actually, I can tell you if I look at if I look at the app, but yeah, maybe it's like 170 right now, 180, somewhere around there.
Mm.
It could be more, it could be more weird. I mean, because it goes so fast, obviously, because
Oh,
it's one every day. So
no, no, trust me. Uh, like 2020, when I was getting things up to steam. Let's just say there was days where I was speaking to maybe 4 or 5 different people in a day.
uh-huh.
Uh, so
Yep.
yeah, like, how can I put it? Yeah, some days it was just very much blurry.
Oh, sorry. We're 243 episodes.
Well done, well done. Like, so when did you start growing your team? Was it immediately, or was it a case of you like got to a certain amount of episodes, then you started to move forward?
Uh, I didn't start growing my team until I had the money to grow the team.
Mm,
So basically, when I thought of the idea, one of the first things I did was I immediately started making the podcast just myself and my co-host
mm.
Rachel. We started making the podcast together because it's such a simple idea that would be easy. Would have been easy for somebody else to duplicate it or just take it. Because I'm getting all the content for free from WikiListen. I mean, for Wikipedia.
Yes.
Um, the one thing that probably they can't is like I'm a professional comedian, so I'm good at the banter, so I'm good at that on the podcast. And then another thing is I also have professional producing experience, so I can make the podcast sound high quality um, by how I produce it as well. So that's those advantages I had. But also, I was like, okay, I need to start making this now because as I'm pitching it around, it has to exist. Otherwise, somebody could take it. And so I
Yes.
just started making it immediately. And so we did that. We made it on our own for about 8 weeks. And by that time, we had made a deal.
No, no, I'm impressed by that because like this is the thing. There are many a person out there who would like, oh yeah, I've got this idea. I want to do a podcast. They'll do like the typical for and done, which
Mm-hmm.
the
Yep.
majority of podcasts are, and that's like okay, or they will go up to a certain point and like get disheartened and forget that it's more of a marathon rather than a sprint when it comes to these things.
That was another advantage that I had, which was I could design our production so that it was repeatable more easily. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that over and over again where people will have an idea for a podcast or something like that. Especially, well, let's talk specifically about podcasts.
Yeah.
Like people will have an idea for a podcast and they'll be like, oh, I'll bring in music here and I'll have this happen and this happen. And they'll have like 3 hours of editing for every episode of their podcast. And if it's a very small group or a person, that's not doable. Like you can't do thousands, maybe hundreds and thousands of episodes like that
No.
unless you have a money and a team. And so when I started, I made the podcast easy to produce by just really planning. I planned to make it easy to produce.
Mm. Oh, no, no. Like it. Like it a lot. Ah.
Yeah. So far so good, right?
Oh no. This is the thing. Like you just like you've rekindled my spirit to fight God. Rekindled my spirit. Yeah, because this is the thing. I talk to many a person all over the place in many a different topic. And yeah, I often find that like I do this because it helps me continue to learn and grow. If it
Mm-hmm.
was just like purely down to finances, let's just say I like I would be a long way from a steak dinner, my friend. A long way, but still, but yeah, but that's the important thing for me. But I know for myself, it's not going to be a quick, easy run. It's going to take a long time for it to get to where I want it to be. But yeah, but I'm always open to listen to people and their sort of ideas and how they do things, because if I'm not, I will not learn a damn thing. And that would be a sad thing indeed, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I'm all about the another interesting thing about WikiListen is, so part of my philosophy is I say I want to make a shitload of money making nonsense. Like that's what I really want to do with my life. I just want to make nonsense and make a lot of money making nonsense. I want people to pay me to follow my curiosity. So the whole podcast is basically something that I do already. I already skim through Wikipedia and just read weird pages. That's what I do all the time. But now I made it my job. So that's one of the things about it. Like I love scouring through Wikipedia and finding weird things.
What is the weirdest thing you have found so far on Wikipedia?
Well, it was actually recommended to us by one person. It's a sport that originated in Australia, I believe, called ferret legging. And the way ferret legging works, it's a sport where you have to wear baggy pants. You tie the ankles so that animals can't escape, and then you put ferrets in your pants. 2 ferrets, by the way. Then you also, one of the rules is you can't wear underwear, and the ferret's teeth and claws must be sharp. Then you close up your pants. You close up your pants, and then you see how long the person who can keep the ferrets in their pants the longest wins. Okay, that's a real sport.
Is it though?
Yeah, it was done for years and years and years. And then one year it was innovated because one guy was like, hey, you know what would make this better? Yes. One guy was like, you know what would make this better if we wore white pants so people can see the blood.
That's an innovation.
That was an innovation in ferret legging. So
I'll tell you this: the champion of that's not getting to get laid. It's like, no. It's like, no, you keep that to yourself. It's oh my god, ferret legging. Okay, I've learned many a thing today, but I didn't expect to learn about ferret legging.
would you do me the biggest favor? You should pick a Wikipedia page for us to read because we take requests. So if you want to request a Wikipedia page, or any of your listeners want to request a Wikipedia page, reach out.
I know.
Or you can request one right now too, and I'll put it in the thing, and I'll give you a shout out on the episode.
No, put it this way. I'll tell you what, I'll look one up, and I'll
Please
get one
do.
over to you.
Absolutely.
No, yeah. Like, okay, I have to ask now, with regards to what you want to do, where you want to take this journey of yours over the next, say, like, yeah, let's say the next year or so, because I like you're going fast with the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. Where would you like to be in a year's time?
In a year's time, well, funny thing is, I actually just wrote a business plan for the next year, so I know exactly what I'm going to be doing, and so it's very simple though. So the idea is, within a year, the podcast is going to be where I want it to be, which means that it's going to have it's going to be making enough money to pay all the base salaries for myself and all the people who work for me. But the podcast is run in such a way where I only have to pay attention to it for a couple of hours a week because I have a team that does it. So once I have a base salary, then the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be experimenting and making things that I like. And then when I make something that I like that's really good, then I will use my team to pitch it to the right people so that we can then again get other people's money so that I can make, whatever cool thing is I want to make, whether it's a movie or a TV show or a comic book or whatever. I'm going to be able to develop those projects to the point where they're fantastic. And then so basically within a year, I'm going to be doing my dream, which is every day I'm just going to wake up, pursue my curiosity, and be paid well for it.
You know what, Victor? I can see you doing that. I can see you doing that well. Like,
I'm definitely gonna do that because I've already started. And when I had the idea of building my the companies around me like this
yeah.
more than I would say more than like a few years ago, I always thought that I could do it. But then as now I'm at the point where like, okay, other people have jumped on board this idea and the projects that I want to like say supply the recurring income, they're working. And so now I'm closer and closer to this grand idea because basically 6 years ago I was so done. I was a producer on Love and Hip Hop, one of their one of the one of the offshoot shows in Love and Hip Hop. It's within the Love and Hip Hop franchise. I was a producer on one of their shows,
Okay.
and I did not like it because I was like, this is a crappy show. Why am I making this crap with my time? And then so I was like, I should be able to, if I can be a producer on $1 million franchise, I should be able to be a producer on $1 million projects, which I have created. So then I decided I was just going to go off and I said, what do I really want? And I was like, well, I just want to make stupid, weird things and I want to be paid for that. And so I came up with a plan.
Wow. In 6 years, like this is the thing, man. Like, I've got to say, yeah, it's quite inspiring because, like, this is the thing. You could have just simply went, okay, yeah, I've just had that crappy job, and yeah, I look forward to maybe I can just get a better job rather than sort of just lay down a plan to sort of like go, yeah, how can
Well,
I
yeah,
do that?
I could have jumped to another job, but then I was like, but then it became really clear to me that, even though I'm working in the entertainment industry,
Mm,
I was fueling other people's dreams. And I was like, I can do that for my own thing. Can I do my own dreams?
mm. But like this is the thing, you're going for it. You're taking a like you're getting a slice of your own dream and like forming it into reality. Uh, which could like this could be the foundation stone for, as you just mentioned, to so much more. And I think with regards to how you're doing it, building a team and like you know what I mean, not sort of tackling it by yourself
Uh-huh.
is the way forward because there are so many people which are I'm a creative, I'm an artiste, I make these things, like I make shows, I make videos, I do direct, I'm all of that creative side of things. Don't have the sort of business know-how, if you get what I mean, to sort of make something substantial. It always seems to be like, yes, they stay in their plate, like in their little sandbox, but don't go beyond that, if you get what I mean.
No, I absolutely do get that. It took me a while to understand. It took me a while to understand that I was doing something that not everybody does. Because when I started out, I obviously I have a lot of anxiety and imposter syndrome and all that stuff. And so I 6 years ago, I was basically doing everything by reacting to my anxiety. And so I clung to working for other people because it was safe. Um, and so I had to figure out that I can't do that. And if I can't do that, what I needed to do was I needed to act and I needed to do things well and I needed to knock it out of the park. Because if I'm really gonna if I'm really gonna go to people and be like, hey, give me over $100,000 for a podcast where I read Wikipedia pages, I better be good at what I'm doing. I
Look, put it this way.
can't just
Uh, what I would simply say is if there are some celebrities out there which can get paid millions of dollars for podcasting, let's just say that podcasts suck.
I believe that that's actually very close to my motto, which keeps me motivated. This is what I tell people to, if anybody is wondering if they can make it, if they can do whatever they want to do, I can prove that you can do whatever you want to do and be really successful. And all it takes is one sentence. It's less than 30 seconds. Here it is. Whatever it is you want to do, you can do it because there's somebody out there right now doing it the same thing you want to do worse, and they're a millionaire. so you can do it too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna take that definitely forward. All right. Okay. You know what, Victor? I have no more questions for you today, but the future, yes, the future. I'm definitely want to keep in touch with you, my friend. I think there are. I think there are. I think you are on the beginning of a path which I think could be quite inspirational to quite a lot of people. Like especially like even if it doesn't execute the way you expect it to, or it goes beyond like your wildest expectations. I think there is like a shining example of what how you can do it the right way rather than sort of the hope and pray or the wrong way. Uh, and I think there's a lot of people which are hoping and praying, and there's a lot of people which are doing it the wrong way. I think you might be onto the right path, for which I think a number of people can either replicate or, like, take some inspiration from you on that. You know?
I mean, I hope they do. I really do. I want to be happy. I want everybody to be happy. Wouldn't it be great if everybody was happy? That'd
I
be nice.
it's like, yeah. Unfortunately, I think lawyers would be upset. You know what I mean? They're lawyers. Let me. I, Victor, I have to say thank you for coming on today. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, sir. Yeah, felt
Thanks
like
for
I've
having
been
me.
on. Ah, no, the pleasure's all mine. The honor's all mine. Can you tell the lovely people out there how they can find you out on these interwebs?
Absolutely, everybody. Please check out my podcast, WikiListen, at wikilisten.com. It's really easy to get to. Check it out. I'm Victor Varnado. You can check me out on Twitter at Varnado.
Perfect. Perfect. Yes, I'll put all of the information on the show notes, my friends, my life warriors. So please check out Victor, go to him, sign up to his podcast. And yes, all I've got to say is, thank you, Victor, for coming on today. And yes, I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors, for sticking with us to the end of the show. Please stay well, stay safe, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic. Be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. And remember, keep pushing forward. Peace. And we are